Alright, it is Monday morning of my 4th week of my psychiatry clerkship, which means I'm about halfway through. Crazy how fast these 6-week clerkships go, especially because I'm used to doing 8-week ones. And especially with psych, the workload has been pretty relaxed, so it's just flying by even faster. So like I said, this is my 4th week of clerkship, and I'm actually on outpatient this week. Everything I've done so far has either been in the inpatient or emergency room setting. So I'm gonna be working in an outpatient clinic all week, so it's gonna be a very big change of pace, especially coming right from emergency, where, we're seeing the most acute patients. All the patients we'll be seeing in the outpatient setting will be a lot more stable, just more routine stuff. Today, however, I actually have an ED shift later. I had one ED shift for this block, maybe last weekend or something. We typically have 2 ED shifts in every single one of our blocks because our emergency medicine clerkship is weird like that. But so for today, I'll have to get out of my psych mindset and remember a lot of the other medicine that I've been sort of neglecting for the past 3 weeks. And then in terms of the rest of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll be in the outpatient clinic. And then Thursday, we have an OSCE, so I won't really have any clinical responsibilities that day. I'll have to go up to the school for pretty much a whole day of lectures and OSCE. The outpatient clinic is cool in that a lot of it is, run through the residents, as a lot of, academic medicine is. But, once the residents get to PGY2, they sort of have their own office, or they share an office with another one of the residents. So that's where they conduct all of their patient interviews. And then I think they just go and present to the attending after. And actually, all of the PGY3s in this program do their whole year of just outpatient. So they're kind of there every single day, and then some of the other years will have 1 half day a week in the outpatient clinic. Alright, and it is now Thursday. I just got back from my OSCE. In terms of how the week has gone, Monday I had my ED shift, which went fine. It was a pretty normal shift. Nothing too crazy happened. And then Tuesday and Wednesday I was in the outpatient clinic. So as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of run by the residents. So I got there around 8:30, maybe a little bit before to meet everyone, get a list, all that. But a lot of them start seeing patients at 8:30, so I just found one of the residents and asked if I could, watch some of their interviews. It was honestly a lot of shadowing, unfortunately. At least in the inpatient and emergency setting, I did have the opportunity to do, the interview just by myself, write notes, all that kind of stuff. But since it's outpatient, they're a little bit more strapped for time. So I just kind of watched, and sort of at the end of the interview, they would ask me if I had any more questions to ask the patient. But it was really just the resident conducting the whole interview. So after the resident saw the patient, sort of came up with a plan, they would go and present it to the attending. And then, the attending would give their thoughts on what they wanted to do, and then we would all go back as a team and see them again, and then just kind of reiterate to the patient what the next steps were. As you can imagine, in the outpatient setting, these patients are a lot more stable. We mostly saw MDD and anxiety, and a lot of it was just medication checks. So, asking the patient if their symptoms have been improving on their current dosage, if they've been having any side effects, and that's pretty much it. A lot of the patients were doing well. I don't think we really had to change around any of the patients' medications when I was there. So overall, pretty relaxed. Some of the visits can be very fast because of that, especially if this is an established patient and the resident already knows them very well. You don't have to spend a lot of time sort of taking a history. It's really just hey, how are you doing? Okay, great. I'll give you your next 3 month supply. Like I said, very different from the inpatient setting where you can spend a very long time interviewing a patient. especially like for the first time. I was there for a few like first encounters for the outpatient setting, and they do spend 30, 45 minutes gathering a very thorough history, seeing if they've been on any medications in the past, sort of understanding their life a little bit more to figure out how we can best help them and what medications might be beneficial for them. But in terms of the follow-ups, they are very fast. Another big thing in outpatient psych is telehealth. Some of the attendings there exclusively do telehealth. So that is sort of another benefit of that field. You can kind of work from wherever, work from home if you want. So I think that's a reason why, we're seeing an uptick in the competitiveness of psych, is because people want to have that flexibility in their lives. In terms of the OSCE, I went up to the school around 8:30, and the OSCE itself was 2 encounters. It was like maybe 9 to noon. Then we had a break for lunch, and then we came together and had a sort of review session for one of the practice exams. So that was really helpful. Some clerkships have done that, and if they do, it's usually optional. So I kind of like it when we can go over questions as a group and have our course director kind of explain the thought process behind some of the questions. And the way that they did it was we were all sort of required to take one of the practice exams and all took the same form. So if you could look at the data and see sort of which questions a lot of people struggled on, and then those were the questions that we went over. So that was really helpful. Right, today is Sunday, and I actually just got home from a call shift at the hospital. Thankfully, in my school, a lot of our clerkships don't have too many like weekend responsibilities. Usually, you have to do like 1 to 2 days on the weekend. So in this block, I had one EM shift on the weekend, and then I just did my weekend call shift for psych. So I got there around 8, met up with the resident. It was my first time meeting him. He was super nice, and he was like, I'm not trying to keep you all day. So we basically looked at the consult list. There was a whole bunch. There was like 15. Thankfully, most of them were like follow-up patients or emergency room patients, where in the emergency room, there was a clinical therapist that was there to help. So all he really wanted my help with was seeing the new patients. So basically, we read up on all of the new patients, sort of just got a general idea of why they were here and why we were being consulted. So then we went to see them. We kind of did the interviews together. He would, ask some stuff. Sometimes I would start, and then he would fill in. And then we would have a good system where I would be starting to write the note while he was calling collateral. So whether, that was family members, or sometimes trying to call pharmacies to get medications, or calling assisted living facilities where patients came from, just to try to get a better picture. And then he would write the collateral note, and then kind of we would merge our notes together to just save a lot of time. And that process worked pretty well. So we saw all the new patients. I think there were like 4 or 5, and then he let me go at like 11:30. So that was really not that bad, only a few hours. But I actually felt like I was helping out, which is good considering this past week on outpatient, I was really just shadowing and, learning a lot, but not really putting any skills in use in terms of interview or note writing or anything like that. So it was actually good to be able to contribute to the team a little bit. In terms of the rest of this past week, I had one more day of outpatient on Friday. Fridays are actually an addiction clinic. So got to see a little bit of a different patient population, patients who are struggling with addiction. So that was kind of the focus of a lot of the visits. But pretty much every patient we saw for the addiction clinic also had some other psychiatric conditions like anxiety or depression. So we also had to follow up on that and sort of talk about how those things interact with each other. So in terms of the week overall, it was a nice change of pace to see patients who are in a little bit more of a stable situation when compared to inpatient or, the emergency room. I do feel like it was a little bit boring just because I was shadowing most of the day, but I still did learn a lot from, just observing how the residents and attendings spoke to the patients and the sort of things that they focused on in the encounters. These next 2 weeks are going to be on the consult service. So another sort of branch of psychiatry is consults in the hospital. So if a patient is hospitalized for a medical reason and the medical team, the surgeons, whoever, need help from a psychiatric point of view, they consult psych. So I'll be on that team for 2 weeks. So hopefully I'll get a really good experience and sort of seeing how the psychiatric conditions can interplay with the medical conditions. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like below and subscribe if you want to see videos like this in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.